All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, very excited to be talking to an individual who's very prominently featured on PFL Europe 3, which goes down on September the 28th, as Lewis Long readies to step into the PFL Smart Cage against Stevie Ray. And great heavens, Stevie, on Bowks Talking Bouts. How are you doing, man? You having a solid day?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Yep, fight week. Excited, ready to go.
Yeah, and it must be cool because this is the first PFL show in Glasgow, so a big moment in that sense. I mean, not uncommon to you as far as like you competing in Glasgow during your anecdotal journey in MMA, but seems like there's some cool facets to this event.
Yeah, that's it, man. I've not fought in Scotland in 7 years though, so it's good to be back. Last couple of years has been all over America mostly, but yeah, it's been a while. I'm looking forward to fighting at home again.
Yeah, you have a history of really showing out in Glasgow as well, like that Leonardo Mafra fight you had years back, garnering the performance of the night distinction. So, I mean, you always bring it in the cage in general, but it seems like you have a bit of a history of putting on exciting performances there.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I've fought at the Hydro twice. I've been a one by knockout the first time, Leonardo Mafra. The second time I got knocked out off Paul Felder. So I've been on the receiving end of both. I've felt the highest high and the lowest low, both inside the hydro. So yeah, I mean this one I'm just looking forward to it, man. I'm not putting too much pressure on myself. I've won fights, I've lost fights, all different ways. This fight camp's at welterweight, so the fight camp's a lot easier in terms of making weight. And yeah, normally I'd be pretty miserable this week, but I'm full of calories and yeah, the weight's good and yeah, I'm buzzing for it.
Yeah, and your career's been so interesting because there was a previous juncture where you were told by doctors you wouldn't be able to compete anymore, like more so when you were in the UFC. And then it seemed like you were also entertaining, stepping outside of competition after the last one there. Like, is there something to this last fight where it's almost like ending the career off on your terms in a certain sense? Or like, is there like more of a long-term kind of focus you have to continue your competitive efforts in MMA? Like, how does that all look?
To be honest, man, I'm not sure. It's mixed emotions when it comes to this sport. It's the hardest. I feel like it's one of the hardest sports out there. Getting in the mentally, physically. The demand mentally and physically. Getting in an octagon with another man, ready to try and you're both go try and knock each other out or submit each other. Um, People are watching, drinking, enjoying it. It's a crazy sport, but yeah, I love it. And yeah, I mean, I'm getting older, 34. That's the hard thing, at higher level MMA at my gym. I've got young upcoming prospects, 20, 21 year old. It's hard keeping up with them, but in terms of technicality, I'm still right up there. I can still hang in there. It's just the recovery. The recovery is brutal. They're recovered the next day. It takes me about 2 days to feel a bit better again. But yeah, you're right. I think it was Jeff Davidson, a orthopedic surgeon at the UFC, said that I should never fight again with my knee injuries. He said that the knee damage that I had was not a short-term fix. And there was this weird dispute with the UFC. I had a four-fight contract with the UFC. Um, the UFC spoke to him, spoke to Sean Shelby after it, trying to say like, because they asked me to get orthopedic clearance and I did. And I think they were shocked that I got it. But yeah, it's just cartilage. It's wear and tear that I've got. There's nothing wrong structurally with my knees. The ligaments are all fine. It's just because I'm like bone to bone. I'm sure Kamara Usman's went through a similar uh, situation. I spoke to him about it as well. But yeah, I mean, one part of me wants to keep fighting even after this fight. It's hard. It's hard to walk away from the buzz. the being a somebody, getting in there fighting, everybody's, you're their superstar, and then the money as well. The money is a big one, obviously. Again, I've worked my way up to get paid a good amount of money to, for the sport, and to walk away and then try and start all over again, coaching. Like I've got my gym and stuff. It's not that I can't get by. I don't need to fight. It's just, yeah, financially, it's a lot obviously better fighting. But even regardless of the money, man, like I do, it's like a love-hate relationship. Sometimes I hate training, and sometimes I hate the fight game, but I love it as well. So it's going to depend on what happens on the night and how I feel. Um, it's either going to be me taking my gloves off and saying, you know what, that's me done. Even when I win, like just I didn't know how I'm going to feel, or I might be, like Leonardo DiCaprio on The Wolf of Wall Street. I'll be saying I'm not fucking leaving.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I mean, I feel like the PFL has really been an interesting promotion for you because, like I said, you'd kind of got on board on the heels of for a bit thinking you weren't going to be able to do it ever again based on what the doctor had told you and just being like that 2022 lightweight finalist and just some great things you've been able to do overall in the promotion like and just with them expanding this European market as well like even if this is kind of the last one like is there a certain sense of pride or a particular feeling attached to like what you've been able to do with PFL because it seems like you've been able to really do some great things as a competitor and also help with their international expansion also.
Well, it just shows you that, the UFC and the orthopedic surgeon guy that said I should never fight again and that I probably couldn't fight again and I wouldn't make it to fights. It just shows you that they were both wrong. I had just won the biggest fight of my career in Michael Johnson. I signed a new 4-fight deal. I got the orthopedic clearance, and this is fight number 7 since then. Uh, I've beat Anthony Pettis, a former UFC champion, twice. I've won and lost fights, but I've been there. I've not had to pull out a fight at all since then. Um, and yeah, my body's fairly healthy. I mean, my knees, I've got wear and tear. Obviously, they do occasionally swell up. It's been a while, but I get the occasional cortisone injection to help with that. So I got one a few months back, and touch wood, but there's not been any swelling in the knees. They've been good. And yeah, that's really it. I mean, my body's healthy. I'm 34. I'm not too old in terms of age. So I think, you know what? I think the $1 million tournament really took it out of me. See, fighting 4 times in the year, I think that was tough. And then straight away at the back of it, I went straight back into another one. So I must have fought like from April to the July, I think a year and a half. I had not even a year and a half, like just over a year. I had 6 fights, so that's very grueling and demanding on the body, especially because it was at lightweight every time. I was quite a big lightweight. I had to cut quite a bit of weight, be on minimal calories, like roughly around 2,000 calories when I was training fight camp, which is rubbish. Like I'm on more than that fight week. I'm on over 2,000 calories fight week for welterweight. So, but obviously I'll not be as big at welterweight. But I tell you one thing, I'm enjoying the food and I'm enjoying just being able to fuel my sessions more. And yeah, I'm just in a good place right now. I'm absolutely buzzing for Saturday. I can't wait to get in there. And yeah, win, lose or draw, I'm just gonna enjoy it. Like I've missed this feeling, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And like you said, you've been in there with so many big names across really multiple martial arts disciplines. Like, I mean, I remember that Paddy Pimblett grappling match you had a few years back at Polaris 11. Like, what are your thoughts on what Paddy Pimblett has been able to do in recent times in the UFC?
Oh yeah, he's class, man. Like I called Paddy out for a bit. I was trying to get that fight because I think that's when I wasn't signed to anyone. I was kind of like seeing if the UFC would re-sign me, maybe make that fight happen. So I was getting at a bit of smack talk. But I like Paddy. I like what he brings. I think he's 4-0, 5-0 in the UFC. He's been backing it up. He's got like his charisma kind of attitude. Like whether you love him or hate him, you want to watch. So he's exciting, basically. Yeah, I've got a grappling win over him. I would, that maybe would be an interesting fight for the fans. The fact that I submitted him, the fact that that's his kind of game. He's more a grappler. Yeah, I would be up for it. Obviously, fighting him, but I do like him. I like watching him, and he's exciting.
And I also noticed that when you were in the UFC, you had a competitive fight against Kajan Johnson and everything like that. Like, have you been, I guess, following anything with that UFC class action lawsuit, just in the sense of he's kind of one of the names across one of the, I guess, like two big lawsuits that are kind of like amalgamated into the one with like the Lee versus Zuffa and then Johnson versus Zuffa
Yeah.
parts of it. Is that something you've been following at all, and even like a peripheral kind of way at all, or?
Yeah, fucking right I have because I think the way it was looking, I was due about a quarter of a million, 250 grand. The way it was looking, adding it up, I can't remember the exact stats, but you got a certain amount of money per fight. I had 11 fights in the UFC in that time. I co-main evented the UFC twice, Ross Pearson and Michael Johnson. Um, and yeah, so fucking right. I mean, I hope we win. I hope it's going to trial. I've been following it. Uh, People think the UFC might settle before then. I don't know what the best thing is to do. I just know that we all never got what we deserved. I mean, to be in the UFC, I was in the UFC for 5 years. Uh, I did make a good amount of money. I was able to change my life and stuff, and buy a house and all that. But the UFC is like the Champions League of MMA, and to be in the UFC for 5 years, we should all have been better off. It shouldn't be just like if you're a John Jones, you're minted. So, and I don't know too much about it. Like I heard that that it's something to do with the contracts and you weren't allowed to like fight elsewhere. And I mean, I think it's a lot to do with also that we were treated as self-employees, self-employers, um, but we were basically like employees. We had to wear Reebok. We couldn't get our own sponsors. We never got any sort of money from like any of the other sponsors, Bud Light and all that kind of stuff. I've I've been following it, and I'm hoping I get a pay. But if I don't, then it's all good.
Yeah, for sure. And there's so many questions I could ask you, man. I mean, I've really enjoyed what you've done over the years in combat sports and everything like that. But I do want to be mindful of the time. I'm kind of noticing the
Yeah, I've
minutes
got a
creeping up.
couple of minutes, man. I've got a couple of minutes. It's all good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just didn't want to encroach too much into the, next interview and stuff like that and whatnot. But yeah, great that you've been able to come on the platform ahead of what could conceivably be your last MMA fight. I've enjoyed watching you over the years. Are there moments that stand out to you? Have you found yourself thinking of that, or would that be more of a thing after the fact? Like maybe if there's like a standout moment or a couple moments for you in your MMA career and just your times in martial arts competing in general.
Yeah, I do sometimes think about it, like, even sometimes when people want photos or they look up to me and, it's sometimes a bit like, I have to pinch myself and it's quite crazy, just where I came from, kind of came from nothing, no money, no kind of anything like that. I started MMA at scratch from age of 19. I was getting in trouble before that. And yeah, I mean, I'm proud of what I've done. To co-main event the UFC twice, to beat two big guys as well, Ross Pearson in Belfast, Michael Johnston in Singapore. I've then, I've been in with there by the highest level. Um, And I then went on to PFL and beat Anthony Pettis twice. Um, yeah, I'm proud of what I've done, but I feel like there was more to give. I have got a kind of the whole UFC thing that happened did kind of piss me off. Because I was, like I said, I had just signed a new 4 fight deal. I feel like I was at maybe the peak of my career. And yeah, they shattered the dreams, if you like. Um, yeah, I reckon if I took them to court, like I reckon it was not even legal what they did to me. I reckon it was actually illegal, but I know the way the UFC works. Because I'd won my last fight, I'd signed a 4 fight contract, and I got orthopedic clearance, but they still basically said to my manager that if I didn't go as a free agent, they were going to cut me. So yeah, it's a weird one, man.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what would be going on there. I guess they didn't want to potentially have you get injured in their cage and maybe like the optics of that. I don't know. That does sound
Yeah,
questionable
yeah. I
though.
mean,
Yeah.
I think it was because the orthopedic surgeon guy did say, like, look, this guy's knees are fucked. It's not going to be like a quick term fix. There's a lot of wear and tear. He might be pulling out of fights. Like, but like I said, I went and proved them wrong, and I've never pulled out a fight since, and I've been in there and competing at the highest level still. So yeah, the UFC owe me. So hopefully I do get that payday.
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. Like, just the fact that you've been able to subsequently do such great things in the PFL shows that that assessment was ultimately incorrect for sure. But I guess just in terms of like assessing things, like just looking at this next fight you have here and whatnot, like, I guess because I talked to certain fighters who are like kind of heavy into like the visualization component of preparing for a fight. Like, is
Yep.
there a certain like visualization you have for how this Lewis Long fight is gonna wrap up, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm visualizing a 3 round war. I know Lewis hasn't fought on my level. He's not fought the same sort of guys I've fought, but I know he's hungry. He's coming on to my territory. He's had a full fight camp. He's a hungry guy. I know he's going to come in shape. I know he's going to come and bring a 3 round war. He's not going to be easy to put away. So I'm prepared for that. I'm prepared for a 3 round war. I do feel like I mean, I could be wrong, but I do feel like you'll see the level in there. You'll see, why I've been in there with, all those big names and fought in the UFC and the PFL for so long. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and make a statement. I'm going to try and put them away. But if no, just as long as I get the one.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I feel like we covered a few bases there, a couple bases at the very least. I guess kind of in saying that, though, I figured I'd kind of give you the floor in case you had a final thought you wanted to add as we're kind of wrapping things up here, Stevie. I appreciate you making some time to, speak with me on Bowks Talking Bouts today.
Yep. No, just quick shout out to my sponsors, the contract coach in Kirkcaldy and Kirkcaldy Motor Sales, Alan Ray. Both those guys are my two main sponsors. Also, thanks to Flora Fusion, Arena Gym, and Tatami Fiber. And that's it, man. Thanks for the interview.
Yeah, no problem, man. Like I said, I've watched your fights for a while now, and great to, see this next fight coming up here at PFL Europe 3. It should be a great card on September 28th, one I'll definitely be checking out. And yeah, should be a good fight with Lewis Long and just such a deep card with like, Dan Hardy having such a keen eye for that UK scene and him kind of like helming a lot of that for the PFL Europe branch, like Roger Huerta also, being on the card as well and whatnot. So yeah, a lot for people to look forward to. But again, to reiterate, thanks for the time, Stevie, and have a good rest of your day, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks, bro. I better get shooting now. Thanks, man. See you now.